Welcome to Her Path, the podcast for busy women looking for purpose, health, and happiness. Today, we're going to talk about the difference between contentment and desire. So, of course, I looked up on the Google. Well, what exactly is the difference between contentment and desire? They sound very similar. What exactly differentiates them? So, what I gleaned is that contentment is a state of being satisfied and at peace with what one has, where one is in life. It involves finding joy and fulfillment in the present moment without the need for external validation or material possessions. So I kind of gathered that it was something about being content in the present, being focused on the now, on what I'm experiencing now, versus desire being more like a strong feeling of wanting or craving something that's perceived to be lacking or missing, or the motivation to strive for something beyond what you have now, beyond where you are now. And it could totally be something material. It could be personal goals, relationships, or achievements. So to me, I glean desire as being something more future focused, something I don't have now, but I would aspire to have. Personally, when I was kind of being introspective about this and kind of trying to differentiate with myself, like when have I felt desire? When have I felt contentment? I could say that a lot of the things in my life have been fueled by desire. And some things I have totally been content with. Like growing up, I did desire a certain quality of life where I would be financially independent, where I didn't need to depend on someone else to support me. And the reason why I had that desire was based on some of the things that I had experienced growing up. I experienced my mom suffer because of her dependence on her partner for financial support and all of the suffering that came with that whenever the other person didn't come through, all of the instability that it caused. And that experiencing that as a kiddo, that fueled my desire to pursue my education and pursue a career that I perceived was going to be very, very secure. And I wouldn't have to depend on anyone, and I would have enough to not only survive, but to thrive. Other things that I desired was health related. So my father was a type 2, I think he was combined autoimmune diabetes growing up. And he had such poor health growing up. And he died very young as a result of all of the uncontrolled complications of his health. And so ever since a kid, I was horrified of the effects of diabetes and not taking care of yourself, not going to the doctor, not taking your medications. So I had a strong desire to take care of myself, to eat healthy, to exercise, to get my checkups done. And this was because of a strong desire to stay healthy and to avoid poor quality of health and sickness. Also, another thing that I really, really desired, and again, it was through experience and seeing all of the challenging relationships that my mother had growing up, I really desired a partner that above everything else was reliable, smart, family-oriented, doting, honest, humble. And I straight up made a list, y'all. When I was a teenager, I made a checklist of all the things that were important for me to have in a partner. Of course, they had to be taller than me. I was not dating no short man. And that really did mold the people, who I ended up dating and ultimately, marrying. And this was far more important to me than things like being rich or having a pedigree, having influence, or the ability to be able to provide for me. I could honestly say that I didn't really have a lot of desire for material things growing up. I didn't have a lot of desire for being very influential. I didn't have a strong desire for having prestige, critical acclaim, titles. I definitely didn't desire perfection. That was not something that I was striving for. I didn't aspire to or desire for, leadership, perfect appearances, perfect organization. Like those were not things that I really desired or that really motivated me forward. And I could say that was because I was content with things or material things that actually served a purpose for me. I was content with practicality. I was content with things, relationships that could last the test of time. Things that were maybe not flashy, but appropriate and not ratty either. I learned that I could be content with being respected. And I could be content with not being the most important or the most beautiful or the most successful or the most famous person in the room. I also learned that I could be content when someone else takes charge, if someone else chooses to lead, especially if it was in the direction that was congruent or in line with, how I felt or what my values were, and especially if it was not going to be detrimental to me whatsoever. So why is this even important? Why is it even important for us to differentiate contentment versus desire? Like, who cares? The reason is that desire can serve a purpose for us. And when we experience desire, it's a good idea to kind of hone in on where is that desire coming from? What are the feelings that are kind of pushing or bringing up the desire, and to be curious to examine those feelings, because those feelings can really help you identify what your values are and what your priorities are in life. And those can definitely serve as a guiding light for you in so many different aspects of your life.
Gabby, I'm going to ask a quick question.
Yeah.
I like how you said it's a guiding light for you. What happens if you desire just potato chips and chocolate? What does that say? And
right. So then you ask yourself, is that a true desire?
right.
Is that a true desire, or is that a true pleasure, right? Is that something that is going to serve a purpose for you? Is it really nourishing your body? Is it nourishing your soul? Or is it something that afterwards you're going to regret, something that you're going to be beating yourself for, something that's going to derail you from your goal of not having diabetes, or of not, breaking out, or not gaining weight, or having reflux, or, tummy upset? Like, you can differentiate. So being curious about the desires and knowing what you're feeling when you're having those desires can really help guide you as to planning how you want to move forward. Because just because you desire something doesn't mean that it's a true desire that you need to, follow through on. Like I was saying, I may see some hot guy walk across me and he may look at me and smile. And in that moment, I may have a desire to grab his ass, right? But I've already made a commitment. I have already made a commitment to a partner that I'm content with.
You desire him too?
Yes, I desire him in all of the ways that are important, that are more important to me, that are it's a true and very important desire. So that even though I may have a false desire in the moment, it doesn't mean that it's something that I need to pursue or move forward on. Simply to grab, the bag of chips. I may be, I may have decided I have a plan for my day to not snack on chips, and seeing the chips, it's like grabbing ass. It's like being unfaithful to a commitment that I have made to myself or to my partner. And as inconsequential as it may seem, it's just a bag of chips. Like, I'm just grabbing someone's ass. It's no big deal. It's not like I'm having an affair. It's not like I'm doing anything. But at the end of the day, you're breaking a commitment that you may have already set for yourself. So being introspective and curious as to where is the desire coming from? Is it aligned with my values? Is it aligned with, the plan that I have for myself? Can really help you, figure out where things can go wrong and where things are going very right sometimes.
I just have to say the next time I go to grab a bag of chips, that's the only thing I'm going to think about. It's like grab an ass and hope. I think it's going to be a really powerful deterrent. So thank you, Gabby.
Well, I got that from Corinne Crabtree. She is a weight loss coach. She's a fabulous loss coach. And she was the first one I heard it from. And I just could not stop laughing when she said that sticking to your plan, the desire to be healthy and lose weight, it's kind of like being faithful to yourself. And she equated it to kind of like, when you cheat, it's like cheating on your partner, grabbing some ass, not a big deal, but it is a big deal.
I love that. I'm never going to
I know.
grab potato chips and something like that.
Chips and instead of chips and salsa.
Yeah, I love chips and queso and salsa. I know, but so how do you all think you balance contentment and desire? And how has it affected you in the way that you make your decisions in life? I gave you some examples of, how desires have fueled me forward and how contentment has allowed me to find gratitude in some of the things that are available to me. How have you all found a way to balance desire and contentment, and how has it helped you or hurt you?
I can share. So for me, in my career, I think the early days of my career, having the desire, I started out as a respiratory therapist working in an ICU, and such an amazing career, such an amazing purpose. But it was exhausting working all shifts, working weekends, holidays, and the emotional strain from being in a trauma ICU where people lost their lives, all the time, and seeing the families. So for me, desire to have a different lifestyle from that was a great motivator. It's what got me my master's degree. It's what got me leadership and organizational development skills and started me on a non-clinical, cascade of positions. And that same desire to get to the next level is what propelled me, into multiple careers, really moving up in the organization, getting to a senior leader level. But I also want to say that desire at some point took precedence over my happiness, took precedence over my contentment. And that's when it became not helpful. Had to get to that next job, even though I really loved what I was doing. Got to get to the next level, got to get to the next level. And forgetting yourself, forgetting your happiness, forgetting what, the absence of or manageable levels of stress, right? That was hurtful. And so as I've moved into this career, contentment has become very important, emotional contentment, time with my family contentment. I'm still working extremely hard, and in fact, probably harder than I ever have before. I'm taking more risks than I've ever taken before, but they're on my terms, right? And they're not to go after some desire. I'm so content. I love my clients. I love the work I do. I love meeting new people and talking to other coaches and the time that we all have together. I love all of that. And that's where the contentment is, for me, a better place to be in than that space of desire, because it didn't take away from my motivation. And I think in my earlier days, that desire is what motivated me, right? That for more, higher, up the ladder. And now my contentment and my feeling of safety and being in control helps me then say, all right, what can I try differently today? What can I do that we haven't done before? How can I move the needle in different ways? It's that contentment that leads me to be more creative and more visionary and really be a CEO.
Yeah, and there are going to be times when that desire for moving, especially for professional, busy women,
Yep.
like you were saying, but it's always a what's next, what's next, what's next. When you have reached all of those what's next, when you're that balance of desire and contentment may shift. The desire may be different or maybe perceived on a different level, and seeking that contentment so that you can have the satisfaction in all of the fruits of your labor that you have worked so hard to achieve, so that you can actually enjoy that and you can actually revel in it, and you can actually from that sense of achievement still be able to produce more and still be very productive and still be very effective without feeling like you're overdriven for that need. And sometimes it isn't a need for external validation. At least I felt in my point for someone else to say, oh, how smart, or how incredible, or how amazing. Sometimes the need for that external validation also drops down. So then your desire to please others or to look kind of prestigious out in society or with, the network of peers, kind of that importance dwindles down a little bit. And your personal fulfillment, contentment outweighs that. I think it takes a lot of planning and experience seeing those things for you to figure that out.
Yeah.
I know when I was in training, in being trained in medicine, you're kind of pushed to do all of the things. Not only do you practice medicine, but you are part of committees, you volunteer nonprofits, you start your own nonprofit. I mean, there's just so many external kind of expectations. And I had a mentor who was in her 40s. She was still pretty young. She was director of the residency OB-GYN program. She had her own nonprofit. She had 4 kids. And I would think, oh my God, I want to be just like her. Like, she's balancing and juggling everything. Had a desire for her. She was well respected. She, had all these titles. And then she had a heart attack, like at a young age, like 40 something. And she was healthy, no medical issues. And so then that put a lot of things in perspective, like, holy shit, like, what do I desire for myself? To have all the titles and all the prestige and have all of this, professional kind of, distinguishment? Or do I want to have a good life, long life, healthy life, or I can actually enjoy my kids and enjoy my job? So that was kind of like a really important kind of turning point for me when I was on this career path.
That's interesting you say that. Well, speaking of career, moving up the ladder, I got to a position where I was either going to continue to move up that ladder or go back down. And I had a really difficult time like deciding, but now I realize, just having this conversation, I was desiring contentment at that time, and just being so stressed at those higher levels in your professional career. To me, it was no longer worth risking my health and risking just the ability to enjoy life, just to have X amount of dollars in the bank account, or just to have the title, director behind your name, or, whatever it is for you. And that set me on a path. Like, my desire for contentment led me to a life that I've created that I absolutely love and am content. And I also still desire other things. Yeah.
I
That
love
makes
that.
sense. Yeah. I had a lot of similar things too as Beth and Elise, working as a staff nurse in the open heart unit and then getting promoted and promoted and promoted and farther away from patient care, more into management. And, I'd come home at the end of the day with my 2 kids and we just sit on the floor and cry because everyone was so stressed out. And I thought, this is really not what I'm looking for. at all. I wanted more the connection. I didn't want to progress up the ladder, at all. Wanted connection, and I wanted to be, with my kids and to be content. So that makes so much sense.
And I wonder, I mean, is it possible to be in those, leadership roles and high up in the ladder and have contentment?
Yeah, it depends on what your values are. It
Yeah.
depends on what's important for you, and it's important what makes you happy. So I'm sure there are so many executive women who have multiple leadership roles who are so content with their roles and with their personal lives and are balancing it. And I'm sure there are times when things are not perfect, but not having that would lead to a less quality in their lives. So yeah, there are plenty of people that we know that have all the things that are super content.
Yeah, there's a drive. So I have a big part of my business, excuse me, is coaching those executive women. And there is that drive to keep leading, that drive for strategy, that drive for being at the top of that ring. And to come down off of that would be devastating for them. It would, kill their desire. It would kill their contentment
Or
and
break their identity, I'm sure.
yes,
Right?
yes, yeah. I mean, the four of us may not be those people. I may have been one of those people at one time, but they are definitely out there, and they have just an amazing way of finding the balance, amazing resiliency, never ending energy. And my coaching with them is how, if you've lost one of those, how do we get it back? How do we carve out space with all of these things that you're doing? And what brings you energy and what takes away your energy? Yeah.
I think that along with contentment comes self-love and self-acceptance. And desire sometimes can lead us away from that, depending on the situation. But at the same time, we get so much growth from desire. We get so much growth. It gets us out of our comfort zone. So for some of us, it's just being very introspective and really identifying the true motivations, the true feelings that are pushing that desire, and kind of and weighing the pros and cons of it.
I think an important tool for women is to really do that crosswalk. What is it that I'm desiring? What does contentment mean to me? Where do my values and my core beliefs fit into contentment and desire, right? And where does the motivation sit, right? But knowing what your values are, knowing those core beliefs, and then applying to them, I think it's so important to do that work. And nobody taught us how to do that work. I think we all figured it out by trial and error, right? Going too far into the desire space and then having to figure out, how do I get to the contentment space? But being able to do that work, I think, is a great skill.
And there's no right or wrong way, right? Of attacking it or figuring it out, or right. of going through life, Someone who's perfectly content without having immense amount of desire, who's to say that that's wrong? Or someone who's so driven by desire and is still having, the quality of life that they've aspired to, who's to say that that's wrong or right? It just depends on how you feel it is fulfilling you.
So true.
Yeah. Well, that was fun. Thank you all for engaging in this discussion, and we'll see you next time.
Hey, one more thing before we leave. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are certified professional coaches, but this broadcast is not a substitute for medical or psychological advice. Okay, thanks for listening. See you next week.